Hello everyone, Lisa from Epic Yarn Gems. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a pattern that I have created to make a large bucket hat. This is pretty easy once you get going. It is using one of my favorite stitches, the half double crochet. And here are two examples of the hats that I made. Each of them were for my sons. So they were made using the measurements for their head. So like I said, it is a larger size. So for the one with the rainbow on it. So let's get going. The yarn that I used was the Super Saver Stripes, and this is a 4 medium weight yarn. And I used my crochet hook that was a little smaller than recommended for this. I actually used a 4 millimeter simply because I wanted it a little tighter. All right, so to start off, we are going to do a magic circle. I will put a link to the video on how to do a magic circle up in the, I think it's the right hand corner. It will show up. So to do a magic circle, we are going to be doing the half double crochets into the magic circle, and we are going to do 10 of these. After you have completed 10, you are going to want to do a slip stitch join to the very first stitch. I always mention that when you're starting your magic circles that you should always make sure and count so that you have the right number to start with, because if you don't, all the rest of the increases will not work out. So for this hat, because it is a larger size, I did need to go to row 10 and increase my stitch count all the way up to 100. So I will put in here a link to the video on how to do increases, as well as probably a really quick description on what rows rows 2 through 10 will look like. And for my mathy folks out there, if you're trying to figure out how far across or how big of a circle you need to make, what you need to do is you need to figure your circumference, and your circumference equals 2 pi times the radius, which is halfway across the center of your circle when you're finished. So figuring here for about a 24.5-inch circumference, I wanted to make the measurement across my starting increases to be about 7.5 or 8 inches. There are also charts out there that tell you how many rows you have to do, but if you're kind of a math geek like I am a little bit, it's kind of fun to go back and use those old calculations that you may not have used in a while. After you finish your increases, you're going to start making the body of the hat. And to do this, we are going to be working in the third loop. So when you have a half double crochet, you're going to have 3 different loops. And here is the third one that I'm showing you here. And in that third loop, we're going to do a join here. You can do this any way you want. This kind of looked a little wonky after I did it, so I wish I would have done it a little differently. But you're going to do a chain one after you do that last slip stitch join. And then you are going to go into that same stitch with a half double crochet, and you are going to continue to go into that third loop all the way around. And after you have completed that, you will still have 100 stitches, and you will do a slip stitch join. And when you're doing half double crochets, sometimes the seam can get a little wonky looking. It kind of goes on a really weird angle. So after we finish this row, you can see we have a little bit of a ledge. And then when we come to our next row, what we're going to do is we're just going to do regular half double crochet. So we did a slip stitch join here, but rather than continue in the same direction, after I do my chain one, what I'm going to do is, rather than keep going in the same direction, I'm going to turn my work, and I am going to go back the way that I came, and I'm going to go in the normal hat. I'm sorry, in the, I guess they're normal, but not in the third loop, but I'm going to go into the first 2 loops like you would do a normal half double crochet. And then what I am going to do all the way around is continue to do that. And then at the end of each of the rounds, I am going to do the slip stitch join, and then rather than continue, I'm going to keep turning my work. So I'm going back and forth rather than in a continuous round, all the way, going in the same direction with the chain one and then the half double crochets. You can do this however you want. I just decided to try for this pattern to do um, the turning after each round. So I think it turned out pretty good, but you can just do whatever works best for you. You don't have to do the turn. And as we continue to do this, what you're going to see is that line or that seam is looking straight. It's not looking on an angle like you might see with a half double crochet because those, like I said, they do get a little bit of a slant in them. But this is just another option. You don't have to do the turn. You can just continue to do the half double crochets for each row if you want. When I had done this, I had done down to 25 rows because that measured well on the size of head that I was making this hat for. And then in row 26, you're just going to do a chain one and a row of single crochets. This is just going to give you a nice foundation for your next rows, which are going to be increases because this is what's going to make the brim. So for row 26, you are just going to go back and forth. I'm sorry, you're not going to go back and forth. You're going to do a row of single crochets. Like I had mentioned with the half double crochets and getting a crooked seam, you don't have to worry as much about the single crochets because they don't have that natural angle that is created. And you're going to do that for row 26. When you get to row 27, you're going to do some increases. You're going to do a row of single crochets in the first 9 stitches, and then you're going to do 2 single crochets in the next stitch. And you are going to repeat that until you have what will be 110 stitches in that round. So for the brim that I made here, I did rows 26 through rows 30 as increases, and I will show you the list of how I did those increases to get the brim to look like I did. And there they are. So moving on to row 31 through 34. I was happy with the increases I had. You can see that it's kind of flaring out a little bit here. So for rows 31 through 34, I just did the chain one single crochet all the way around with a slip stitch join at the end of each row, and that was a total of 156 stitches. And if you want to make your brim wider or flow out more, you may want to do a couple more rounds, but for what I was doing, I did rows 31 through row 34, and that was all single crochets with the slip stitch join. For the very last round, you could do another row of single crochets, but I wanted the edge to have a more finished look than just a row of single crochets. So what I decided to do was the reverse single crochet. And with the reverse single crochet, this just is exactly what it is. It's reverse. So it may look a little complicated. I will attach a video that I did on how to do a reverse single crochet that gives you really close up views. So because I wanted the finished side to be on the top of the brim, I turned my work around from from the normal direction I was going. So after my chain one, I am going to go in the stitch actually to the right and twist my hook a little bit, yarn over, pick up a loop, 2 loops on my hook, and I'll go yarn over and pull through those. Then I'm going to go into the next single crochet to the right and do the same thing. So you're going to go to the right, you are going to go into that next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the 2 loops. And what you're doing here is a single crochet. It feels a little awkward, But once you get used to this, it is a really cool way to finish off your projects. Here is a closer view of what that reverse single crochet looks like. And you can see it kind of puts a little twist on the edge and it just makes it have a nice finish there. So this is the reverse single crochet. And like I said, I use it quite often when I'm finishing off some projects. When the hat was completed, it looks kind of like a top hat a little bit here, a little shorter. You can actually starch the bottom if you want to, but I thought it turned out pretty cute, and I got my little Epic Yarn Gems label on here. I haven't put that on a hat in a while, but since this is going for my son, I thought, I will put my little label on there for him. And like I said, it turned out really cute. I do hope that you've enjoyed this video. It is a rather simplistic pattern once you get going. Just some basic stitches like the half double crochet. There's my son with his hat on. He really does enjoy it and it fits his head well. And he's modeling for me here, so I really appreciate him taking the time and actually letting me take some pictures of him. I used the same pattern to make another hat for my younger son, and the yarn that I used here was I think it was a Bernat that was velvety, and it actually made the hat a little more flowy, but it turned out pretty cute. It's a little big on him, but he'll grow into it. I want to thank you all for joining me and listening through this tutorial. I hope that you have enjoyed it and that you try this hat out. It might be a nice one for the summer. Maybe if you used a cotton yarn, it would be nice and cool throughout the summer. As always, I want to thank you for joining me and the gems, and peace, love, and happiness to you all. Take care.